It comes and goes like the strength in your bones. A Marvel fanfiction written on AO3 by Lyra. The link for this fanfiction will be in the description box below, so I encourage you all to go check it out. It started just like every other day. He woke up late, ate on his way to the metro, and had to endure 15 minutes of sitting in overpacked carts as he waited to reach his stop to Midtown. Arriving, he had to run if he didn't want to be stuck in front of a bright red light and be late for his first period. Running was something he had gotten good of after the bite, managing to get to his locker and getting his books before the first bell rang. He entered the classroom and settled down, taking a seat beside Ned. Peter, are you all right? Ned asked. Peter hummed in response, fishing something out of the bottom of his bag to eat before teacher entered the room. He hated that his metabolism was so fast that he couldn't quite seem to catch up, especially when he rushed through the morning like today. He felt like he was missing part of his meals, like he wasn't eating enough. Peter always assumed he was, but he wasn't so sure about that anymore. He only felt totally full after eating in the tower, which was because they prepared a shake, like Steve and Bruce drank, full of protein to support a superhuman. The banana he ate helped him a little before he was feeling lethargic again, and the third period rolled around. Ned was at his side, telling him that something wasn't quite right. Peter was getting paler, and Ned was quite worried. He waved it off. He told his best friend that he was fine, that he just needed to eat a little bit more at lunch. That seemed to calm Ned somewhat, and they agreed that eating at lunch might just help. Peter could feel Ned's eyes on him still, but he wasn't asking about how he was doing the whole time. Lunch, as soon as it rolled around, came with another set of problems. Because of the rush, he'd forgotten his lunch money. Grabbing his wallet, he had around $2, which was enough to get a sandwich, but wouldn't be enough to last him throughout the day. Grimacing, he shook his head and got a sandwich, eating it and feeling it burning off almost as soon as he finished it. After lunch, they headed to the gym, which had him paling. He was burning so many calories that lesson. He wouldn't be able to keep up now. Peter, you're really pale, man. Are you sure you're all right? Peter wanted to nod, tell his best friend that he was fine. Only he didn't feel fine. He could feel the world start to spin. It was almost as if he hadn't eaten in days. His stomach hurt and contracted as if he was trying to find food that wasn't there. Ned, I don't feel so good. He must have passed out after that. All he could see was Ned reaching for him, and it all went black. When he did regain consciousness, it was to the smell of motor oils and coconuts, a soft whirring sound close to his ear, which he recognized as the arc reactor. Tony? Tony Stark was sitting next to him, looking up at the sound of his voice. His eyes softened when he took in Peter, laying on the gym mat next to him. Welcome to the land of living, Pete. Garrett alerted Friday that your vial was dropping, and you didn't eat enough today. Not long after, I got a call from Ned on your phone saying something was wrong. There's no one else to call. Humming, Peter opened his eyes to see most of his class looking between him and Tony Stark, realizing that he did in fact know the billionaire. Something more than an intern even. You're lucky that May added me as an emergency contact, otherwise they wouldn't let me in here, Underoos. How are you feeling? Peter groans, hearing his hungry stomach groan in protest. A shaker with something is pressed into his hand, and as soon as he takes a sip, he can recognize it as Bucky's shake. Bucky made these? Tony nodded. They all wanted to come with, but they eventually settled on giving me enough snacks to feed a small army. I hope this gives you enough until we reach the tower in the afternoon. Frowning, Peter shakes his head. But it isn't Wednesday. Snorting, Tony shakes his head in response. Bruce and Helen want to check you over, just to make sure. I've also been told by Morgan that now Hardy's in town, and she wants to spend an evening with her big brothers. I already called Aunt May. She's coming in after a shift, and just might give you a whole speech about not telling her you weren't eating enough. Whining, Peter finishes the last of her shake, before setting it out on the bar and handed it back to Tony. He sighed. I screwed up. What you did, kid, is scared Ned and your class when you passed out. I think you might have scared them even more when I arrived in the Iron Man suit, although I think some of them will have some great pictures to share on social media, as long as none of them picture you or me, or I just might sue. The last one was directed at Flash and his cronies, who were laughing. No doubt they found it funny that Peter had passed out. Running a hand over his face again, Peter sat up, letting Tony pull him upright as soon as he wasn't feeling so dizzy. You okay to finish your school day? Nodding, Peter sighed. Yeah, I'll be fine. Pursing his lips, Tony handed him a bag with snacks before telling him Happy would come by to pick him up, unless Harley beat him to it. But that was something they had to wait and see. Someone would be there to pick him up at least, and bring him to the tower. Ned, keep an eye on him, will ya? Ned, always in awe at seeing Tony Stark, nodded. You can always count on me, Mr. Stark. Tony nodded. Good man. To everyone he gave his media smile and wished them to see them at one point. He winked at Peter once more, giving him a once-over to make sure he was indeed fine, before getting back in the Iron Man suit and making his way to the tower. The news of him actually doing Tony Stark and the Avengers would be talk of the school within the next hour. He just wished that the day would already be over. Even though the night with Morgan and Harley sounded like fun, he was already looking forward to it.